doesn't even matter what I ask you because you're going rogue every single time today.
Exactly. I was just going to say, I'll just pivot. But
We are going to wrap up this
26 games in, they suck.
day. Taylor.
All of them, I would say, are atrocious. And I'm going to make sure that every single PR manager knows that came
Send the
from
coaches
Joe,
after
not
me. Send the players. Do not send MLS comms after me. I don't have it in me.
I'll tell you what.
This is MLS. We are going to get you all set for match day 30 and with the Leagues Cup final on Sunday where the Columbus Crew lifted their second trophy in 9 months. That means every MLS team is back in action. And what a crew I have today. And Calen Carr, Taylor Twellman, and Mo Edu. Taylor, it's been like 72 hours since you've been in Columbus. You having withdrawals yet?
No, I just bought an apartment there, so it's great. I'll be there 7 times before the final regular season game, so I'm looking forward to moving back to Ohio.
Well, a place you had an apartment last year was Miami. Inter Miami continues to keep that Supporters Shield lead 4 points ahead of the rest of the pack. Mo Edu, if you were a betting man, Miami, are you taking Miami or the field in the Supporters Shield race?
I mean, I should be a betting man. I live in Vegas, right? So I'm going to take my money and I'm going to put it in the pile with Inter Miami. I mean, I think this team, this 2.0 version of this team, including Messi, Busquets, Alba, etc., was built to win titles, to win competitions, to be the best in the league. They have one of the deepest rosters. They're well positioned now, as you mentioned, 4 points clear of LA Galaxy with the game in hand, 8 points clear of Cincy, the next team in chasing for this Supporters Shield race. Barring an absolute disaster on their part for the remainder of the season and another team performing and being perfect, I don't see Inter Miami dropping the ball. I just got an alert on my phone saying that Messi's back in training as well, so it's hard for me to see past them.
It's over, dude. It's over.
Hard.
Hang it up. Write it down. Take a picture. It's over. Miami's got the Supporters Shield.
Not to mention Inter Miami, also the first team this weekend to clinch their spot in the MLS Cup playoffs. So, okay, I think we're all in agreement here that it's Inter Miami. But Mo, if someone can challenge, who is it?
Well, now it gets fun, right? We talked about teams having games in hand. LAFC, I'm going to throw LAFC out there. They have 2 games in hand. If they win those 2 games, they would be 3 points just behind Inter Miami. And I know people are like, well, LAFC just lost another final. They're a team that's probably defeated in the sense of their mentality, and maybe they're not on the same page. I don't buy it. I actually look at that loss to Columbus as motivation. This is now the second final that they've lost in Columbus to Columbus. So that makes the Supporters Shield race even that much more important for this LAFC side. You go back to 2022 when they did win MLS Cup against Philly, which, by the way, still in my mind is the best MLS Cup final we've ever had. Where was that game played? It was played in LA. The margins between the two teams was so slim, but being at home, in my mind and a lot of people's mind, gave LAFC that extra boost they needed to go on and lift the trophy at home. So if they win Supporters Shield, they know no matter who they face in this competition, if they get to MLS Cup, they will be hosting it in front of their 32-52 fan base and at BMO Stadium. Guys, I don't know how you feel. History has also told us that MLS Cups being played at home favor the home team. The last 6 of the 7 champions we've had in MLS Cup have been playing at home. So I think LAFC have the best chance.
I agree with you, Mo, but we're recording this before the result of the U.S. Open Cup semifinal. If they beat Seattle and then they're hosting Sporting Kansas City in the Open Cup final, that's another game that's in a weird part of the season, and they're going to have that monkey on their back about not winning the last 3 or 4 Cup finals they've been in. The numbers support your argument, but the eye test for me, that means Miami has to drop 2 games in the remaining part of the year. And Calen, the only game that they may drop is at Columbus, but Columbus, with their congestion of schedule at the end of the year, I just don't see Miami losing 2 games for LAFC to catch them. I think it's done and dusted.
Yeah, especially when you look out onto the training pitch and you see what they've done without Lionel Messi. And now he's starting to walk out onto the pitch, some individual training, and that's warning signs. That's a scary sight to see when this team already without him is running away with the Supporters Shield. But I would say, Mo, if you go back to that LAFC championship team, the one thing that is a similarity is the new additions that came in when Bale and Chiellini came in that transfer window in the summer. And it took a little bit of time for them to maybe find their footing. And that's maybe where the promise comes for me with LAFC is Olivier Giroud got his first goal, of course, but hasn't really had a lot of time to integrate himself into the team, into the league. Yes, congested schedule as well, but I think this LAFC team, once they figure out exactly how to get these pieces integrated and how he plays with Bouanga, that could get scary.
It feels like, though, that LAFC has figured it out. They've beaten nearly, or at least drawn to almost every single team in the league. It's Columbus that they can't beat. MLS Cup, in July they lose 5-1, then they lose in the League's Cup final. What's the best way mentality-wise, though, Calen, to bounce back?
Well, it's difficult because, I mean, Columbus is the boogeyman. And even when you think of the worst loss in LAFC history, it was at home against the Crew. I think it was 5-1 in that one. Taylor, I think you were on that one. So that's the scary part. But ultimately, I agree with Mo. If they could find a way to somehow get MLS Cup to their home field. Look, I've lost 2 MLS Cups in LA myself, so I know how difficult it is to go on the road. But if you say you play that at home, I'm saying I'm not losing a final. There's no way. I don't care who's on the other side of this or what happened even in the 5-1 regular season loss. So I think it is, that's what I like about this Supporter Shield race, although I do think it is Inter Miami, is that now it's much more important as far as who wins MLS Cup. Those two things we've gotten into arguments. Is it Supporter Shield? Is it MLS Cup? What's more valuable? I think those two are more connected than ever.
It's interesting then to think how Columbus and Wilfried Nancy feels about that MLS Cup or the Supporter Shield. 13 points rather back. Should Nancy be prioritizing the Supporter Shield with the schedule that Columbus has had?
I think he's going to go for everything. That's the way we've seen this team go throughout the season. Most teams we've seen in the past who have gone deep all the way to CONCACAF Champions Cup have absolutely crumbled in the regular season. So the fact that we're even having this conversation is a testament to this Crew side and Wilfried Nancy's system. They've gone through the League's Cup all the way to the final and won it in style at that. And they're going to go into the Campeones Cup as well against Club America, who actually is a little bit more of a tasty matchup now with how embarrassing it was for Liga MX in League's Cup, not even getting a chance to fight for a title. So I think this team has the pieces to be able to continue, and the way that they're rolling right now, I think they're the most informed team in MLS.
Yeah, I don't think there's any argument that they're not the most confident team, Calen, especially with how they played well in the entire League's Cup. Even when they weren't at their best, they still advanced. The only concern I would have for this is that they really haven't rested Darlington Nagbe a single second, and they're going to have to find a way to find him games to rest going into the playoffs. I'm not saying Wilfried Nancy is going to say to his team, we're not prioritizing the Supporter Shield, but at some point, the writing's on the wall. I just know they're going to have to go to Miami, a place they lost to Miami, at Miami before League's Cup began. I think ultimately, when it's all said and done, that's going to be the Eastern Conference Final, because I don't think Columbus will catch them.
Nobody has mentioned the team that's closest to Inter Miami in the Supporter Shield race, and that's the LA Galaxy. So why, Calen, are they not more in the conversation?
Look, I think they're in the conversation. I think the reason I don't have them as legit contenders for it is partly the schedule. What they have remaining, they play against St. Louis this weekend. That's no easy task. The St. Louis team is much better than people think if you've been watching them as of late. They put 4 goals on the road against Portland. Only got a draw in that game somehow, but no Ricky Puig this weekend as well. Yellow card suspension. And for me, the big question with the Galaxy is still the same. And Mo, I was watching you call this last Galaxy game against Atlanta United, and there are phases of the match where they go 5 attacking and 5 defending. And Marco Reus was fantastic coming into the game, immediately made an impact, but still, you're left with Gaston Brugman and 4 in the back having to chase. And that balance is where I really see some struggles. The set-piece defending also came up. So I just think there's very little margin for error with this schedule left for them. And they have to be perfect if you want to try to chase Inter Miami.
And that's where I would, that last part there, Calen, for me is why they're not as high in my priority list in terms of winning Supporter Shield. They've played 1 extra game, right? And so you talk about Inter Miami, you're hoping that they drop points. You're hoping that they don't go perfect. But if I'm having to choose between Inter Miami finishing their season perfect versus LA Galaxy finishing their season perfect, I lean a little bit more towards Inter Miami's camp. And so LA Galaxy, incredible the way they've turned things around from last year to this year. Marco Reus, what an addition he's going to be for this group of players. And I'm excited to see the run that they do make when playoff time does roll around.
Galaxy just 4 points behind Miami. They have played, though, one more game. Let's talk about the reigning champions in the Supporters' Shield in FC Cincinnati. Taylor, the problems seem to be mounting a little bit for Pat Noonan's side. Lucho Acosta continuing to deal with a nagging foot injury, both of his feet. Cincinnati coming off of that 2-0 loss to Miami, and then a little shaky defensively. How concerned are you about FC Cincinnati?
Probably as concerned as Pat Noonan and Dominic Kinnear and Kenny Arena and that entire staff. This is not the FC Cincinnati team that many of us saw going into Leagues Cup thinking, hang on a minute, could they repeat as Supporters' Shield winners? And yet they've now lost 4 MLS regular season games in a row. First time ever under Pat Noonan. Luciano Acosta is a concern for me, whether or not it's both feet bothering him, whether or not stuff off the whatever's going on with Acosta, it's not the same. And guys, Captain Obvious here, 44 goals scored by FC Cincinnati, 29 of them have been contributed by their number 10. So if he's not operating at a high level, they've got no shot, and they don't really have another threat. They've got a collection of players that are good, but this team's at their best when they win games 1-0, when they defend and then look and break on the other end. Not saying they're sitting in, but the strength of this team last year winning the Supporters' Shield at the beginning of this year was Matt Miazga and company being very sound defensively. This team's all over the place. To not score a goal against Inter Miami, up a man the way they were and for the amount of time they were, that in a nutshell tells you FC Cincinnati struggling in the moment.
Yeah, I think the spine of the team was hurt anytime you go multiple center backs deep with injuries. And we saw what happened without Miazga in the playoffs last year. So the margins are so tight, and the margin maker-up difference maker was always the number 10. That's why he won the MVP for Lucho Acosta. So his health, I think they're going to need he's on suspension for yellow card anyways this weekend. Get him some rest and try to get him healthy for the playoffs, because that's the only path forward, I think, for FC Cincinnati.
Next couple of weeks might be a blessing in disguise for Acosta, because the next time that they play would be September 14th against Columbus. So hopefully that gives Acosta the time that he needs as the reigning league MVP. You know what? Let's talk league MVPs a little bit. Taylor, as a former league MVP yourself, we're going to start with you. If the season ended today, who is MLS MVP?
Before Leagues Cup began, I would have taken Luciano Acosta. And just because of the number I just gave you, 44 goals, you're contributing 29 of the 44. That's a ridiculous rate. That defines the word valuable to me. Lionel Messi's only played, 13 of 26 or 12 of 26, whatever the number is. It's Cucho Hernandez, guys, for me. And the reason why I say that is I understand that Wilfred Nancy really is pushing every player to be better than who they are in their profile and in their makeup and where they were in the past before coming to Columbus. But I'm not sure Columbus is the juggernaut that they are if Cucho Hernandez is not healthy playing. He's got 46 goal contributions in his last 43 appearances. That's ridiculous rate of return, and the way he ignites everyone else, for me, the most valuable, because Arango's injured, Messi's been injured, Luciano Acosta, naturally I came up with Cucho Hernandez.
Taylor, man, I wish I could disagree with you, but I'm actually agreeing with you. I like Cucho. That's a great shout. But I'm gonna be devil's advocate for a moment here and just throw a couple names into the mix. And Jill, I'm gonna bend the rules. I know you said if it ended today. Well, no, I'm gonna say let's just go ahead and play things out, right? We're gonna go back to what we were talking about earlier about. We're gonna go back to Supporters' Shield race and how that ties into this. So, if LAFC can go on and somehow leapfrog Inter Miami, Denny Bouanga becomes, for me, the clear favorite. Because, and I know you guys would agree with that. The way that he's come back into form, the goals that he scored, I think 16 and 9 on the season so far. You talk about his value to this team. He is the difference maker.
No doubt.
His tandem with Giroud is gonna blossom and grow, but at the moment, this is his team. And the other one, I guess you would flip a coin. If Inter Miami go on and win this thing, like we think they will, and let's say Messi comes back and bangs in another, 6 goals, 7 goals, the way that we know he can, automatically his name becomes in the mix because of who he is, but also what he's already done up until this point.
I like that. I think it could also go down to the Golden Boot race and be tied to that. If Luis Suarez wins the Golden Boot and carries them down the stretch, or Supporters' Shield as well, I think if if LA Galaxy somehow make one of the most heroic runs all the way through and go and win the Supporter Shield, I think you got to put Ricky Puig in the mix as well. So,
whoa, hold on, Calen, over Gabriel Peck.
Yeah, I give it to Peck. Yeah, I like that shout. But I still think, yeah, that's a tough one. It's the hard part because you almost start stealing against each other in the votes.
See, but I think we all three agree that it probably should be Peck. But like, realistically, I think Ricky Puig would somehow get the votes, and then Gabriel Peck would get like newcomer of the year or something, or like a different award.
Yeah, best 11.
The question was as of today, Mo. Today.
I'm bending rules, baby. Come on, let me live. Let me live.
Those are just minor.
I do like that he already put Messi down for 6 or 7.
So we got Messi, 2 of the 3 Ps, Cucho, Bawanga. Am I forgetting anybody?
No.
Lucho.
Okay.
If Lucho's feet get healthy, yeah.
Oh, and Lucho, yep.
I mean, it's seriously though. If Lucho contributes at the rate that he is now, and Cincinnati finishes 2nd or 3rd, I mean, there's a hard argument to not put him in the top 3 most valuable. The word is valuable. In Cincinnati are nothing without Luciano Acosta, even more so this year than they were last year.
And the interesting part of that is nobody has ever won back-to-back MVPs. Preki's the only one to win 2 MVPs, I believe, and they were separated by about 6 years. So we could be witnessing history. I thought he was my pick before Leagues Cup too.
All right, well, you know what? On that note, we'll leave it right there.
Sorry, Jill, if we're saying most valuable, are we saying most valuable to their team or to the league? Because if it's most valuable player, if we're getting into the weeds a bit, then it's Messi, right? He's the most valuable.
But isn't most valuable player always to their team?
It's to
yes.
Thank you. Okay.
Mo's just trying to change the conversation.
Okay.
Get
Discussion
us off
over.
of this topic.
Putting a pin in it. Who better to welcome in now than Matt Doyle, because we have some major games this weekend with massive playoff implications. The first one I want to talk about is FC Dallas taking on Colorado. And Doyle, Dallas has been sneaky good since Peter Lucen took over. 6 wins in their last 10 games. Where should they hope to finish in the regular season?
In the playoffs.
But where?
This is a team that I think can jump into 8th, 9th place in the Western Conference. I don't expect Portland or Seattle or Houston to really drop off the pace that much, but they can certainly jump above Austin at the very least and get into that play-in round. And it's because of play like this. You see Sebastian Lletget getting forward out of central midfield and finishing a chance from within the 6. Multiple runners into the box. That is something that we almost never saw under Nico Estevez, and it is the defining characteristic of how they play under Peter Lucen. It's actually looking a little bit like the Crew. They're not as polished and smooth going forward as the Crew have been, obviously, but they have that principle of never let a scrambled defense go to waste. And we saw it especially last weekend against DC United. Anytime DC would come up and press, Dallas would play right through it. And once they beat that first line of defense, it was off to the races. There's a level of freedom, there's a level of positivity. And if you listen to the players afterwards in the postgame, they're starting to praise Peter Lucen. And in using the same terms that we hear from Columbus Crew players talking about Wilfried Nancy. It is a brand new team, and I love to watch them.
Yeah, and they're not scared to make mistakes,
Doyle,
at all. And
that's how you give up 3 goals to DC United.
Bingo. You literally took my punchline. If you give up 3 goals against DC United and get your first win on the road, listen, they're unbeaten in the last 4. They've won 3 of those games. I have 0 problem, and I don't think it's that hot of a take that they make the playoffs, because we all know in history of Major League Soccer, September 1st comes around, the hottest teams always cause an issue. Look at what Sporting Kansas City did last year. Now, I think it's interesting that their opponent this weekend is Colorado. What do they take out of their Leagues Cup run? Is there a confidence there? But to put a bow on it, I'll be shocked if FC Dallas aren't in the playoffs.
There's no doubt that Leagues Cup made Colorado's stock go way up, winning the 3rd place game. But Mo, how much did the Rapids stock go up?
It should be, everyone should be buying right now, because I'll be honest with you, when Colorado made the signings they made coming into this season, I thought, okay, ambitious, but still it wouldn't measure in comparison to your LAFCs, to your Galaxies, your Inter Miamis, your teams that go out there and really attract some of the highest quality type players. But give credit to this club, because the first big signing they made was Chris Armas. Chris Armas has brought this team to a different level in terms of self-belief. It's not always the prettiest soccer. It's not always them being tactically better than their opponent, but there's a certain belief that oozes through the manager, and that translates into each and every single player. Cole Bassett, the season he's having, Georgi Mihailovic, the season that he's finally put together. Zach Steffen just won goalkeeper of the tournament during Leagues Cup. So they're a team that, coming into Leagues Cup, decent form, sitting in 4th place, a home playoff berth on the horizon. And they use this tournament to build on that momentum. And I agree with Taylor. They come out of this tournament hot, in form, confident. And against a team like Dallas, they shouldn't be fearful whatsoever, should get the job done and look to maintain their spot in the top 4 in the West.
Sticking in the Lone Star State, let's talk about Austin hosting Vancouver. Doyle, it's not the same vibes around Austin FC that it is around a Colorado Rapids or an FC Dallas. They're currently holding on to that 9th place, Dallas in 10th. I think I know your answer to this, but what are the chances Austin holds on?
I mean, they have a chance, but I don't think that they're going to do it. I want to preface this by saying I like the moves that they made in the summer window. They added 3 starters, including Osman Bakari, who got his first goal for Austin last week. He adds pace. He adds a bit of intelligence in his movement. I like the right back that they added as well. They have a center back now. They're a better team than they were. But this game against Nashville was their final game of the season against a non-playoff team. Every single game they have from here on out is against a team that is above them in the playoff race in either the East or Western Conference. It is the hardest schedule remaining. And Austin, even with those additions, I think they're at a talent deficit in most games. And there's one stat that I dug up this week, just trying to wrap my head around why they've struggled so much. They are dead last in the league in chances created after a sequence of passes. A sequence of 1 pass or more. Dead last in the league. They still don't know what they want to do with the ball, so everything, it has to be like a snatch chance out of nowhere, maybe something off a set piece, and they're not great at those either. So they've done well to stick around, and Brad Stuver, I think they have the most underrated goalkeeper in the league. They're not good enough against this upcoming schedule to get it done and get into the playoffs.
And the first team they have in that upcoming schedule is the Vancouver Whitecaps, Taylor, 6th in the Western Conference. So it seems all but likely that they will make the playoffs. But the big question is, will they win a playoff game? Something they have done once in their MLS history. Do they get a second this year?
It's interesting, right? The history will tell you they don't. On the other hand, you look at the Western Conference, they have the best record on the road, guys. They have the best record on the road, and I had to double check that because when I saw that, I was like, wait a minute, what? Vancouver's the best team in the Western Conference on the road with 6 wins, and only so maybe yeah, absolutely, maybe that's the kind of, the game that they're going to have to win. I think they do make the playoffs. I also wouldn't be shocked though if they're in the play-in game as an 8 or 9 seed. So maybe that's how they get their first win. Can they get their playoff win, second win in franchise history? Yes, will they? I'm 50-50 on it, but the fact that they're good on the road tells you there is something there because the team we were just talking about in FC Dallas moments ago, they just won their first game on the road in the entire year, while Vancouver away from home is actually a decent team. I think there's a 50-50 shot they do get that first playoff win.
Taylor, I'm on the fence with you about this team. Whether they get a win or not, though, in the first round or in the play, I don't see them winning that entire first round series against any of the teams in the top 4. Like,
I agree.
Just
and
in terms
I
of
just
raw
assumed
talent.
the question was the one game, right?
Yeah, no, it was.
If you're asking me about winning the...
They just don't. They needed to go out and be more aggressive in the summer window. They didn't do it, and then they got bad news last night when Brian White had to be subbed off in the Canadian Championship game with a concussion. Yeah. If he is out for any length of time,
they're in trouble.
They're in real trouble.
Let's move out to the Eastern Conference, where it's really quite the opposite story, and it's a fascinating one. There's really no atrocious team in the East, right? 15th through 9th is just separated by 2 points, and you've got Toronto taking on DC United this weekend. Doyle, 7 wins in the first 14 games for John Herdman's side. Now they've slipped to 8th place, just 3 wins in their last 13. How does Toronto stop the slide?
Well, first of all, you said there's no atrocious teams in the Eastern Conference, and my head went straight to Nashville. Like the way they've
Me
played.
too. I was like, hold on.
recently.
Doyle, I was going to say,
We will
DC
get
and
there.
Nashville, man, good argument.
Are we calling
DC or
Nashville
Nashville?
atrocious?
I mean, have you seen the way they've played the past 2 months?
I guess I should have said there's no team that's totally out of it.
That's correct. That's correct.
My
That
bad.
is, like everyone, as you said, 9 through 15 in the Eastern Conference. Everybody still has a chance. Toronto FC, the team you mentioned, they're in 8th place. They have not been very good over the past couple of months, but they did get a smash and grab on the road at Houston. That was well done. Then they won their Canadian Championship semifinal. And the big thing about that Canadian Championship semifinal, they had Lorenzo Insigne, they had Jonathan Osorio, they had Federico Bernardeschi, all healthy, all on the field, all playing just about 90 minutes in that one. They had their first choice defense, all healthy, all on the field, playing together in that one. They have enough to hang on. I don't think it's like a Vancouver situation. I would never expect them to win anything more than the play-in round, and then maybe you steal a game in the first round. They're not going to win multiple series, but they have enough to hang on. And if they're going to do it, it'll look a lot like what they did against Houston.
Guys, I got to go out on the road every once in a while. You want me to call teams atrocious?
I mean, you're the one who chose the word.
Nashville out here
Just
catching
saying.
strays, man.
I know. And like, guys, P.S. Nashville's tied with 26 points with Chicago, New England, and DC United, who I want to talk about. Taylor.
All of them, I would say, are atrocious.
Okay, then let's do some. You're going to think this math is super atrocious. Okay, so DC United is last in the East on 26 points and some other things that add to that. A league high 22 points, Taylor, dropped from winning positions. If they had held on to all of those, they could be tied for second place. Why is DC United not a little higher up the table, at least halfway to second place?
Because they've given up 22 points from winning.
And how have they done that?
I mean, this is it. How have they done that? They're very confident going forward. They're incompetent defending. They're not great in transition. Guys, I watched a game earlier this year between Cincinnati and DC United. In the first 45 minutes, the most passes completed were the DC United goalkeeper to Benteke and a long ball. I'm just going to let it sit there. Now, it's not a beauty contest. It's where is the proof is in the pudding. The proof that's in the pudding is 22 points lost from winning positions is the recipe of atrocious. Your words, not mine. They're not going to get it done.
Wow,
They're not
Jill,
capable
you're being
of getting
really
it done.
nasty calling
They
all
can
these
get
teams
it.
atrocious.
Yeah, you better believe it.
Exactly. And I'm going to make sure that every single PR manager
No.
of these teams knows that came
Send
from
the coaches
Jill,
after
not
me. Send the players. Do not send MLS comms after me. I don't have
I'll
it
tell
in
you
me.
what. Every single team's gonna clip this and have it playing on their TV when the players
I
walk
said
in.
not atrocious.
You're
gonna
I
have
said
them
not.
Mo, it's
Oh,
going
oh.
to be the Adrian Heath. Nobody believed us. Everybody counted us out. Adrian, you're in 4th place. No one talks to you.
All I'm gonna say on DC, and I agree with you, Taylor, is I mean the points dropped is crazy to me, and to me that just screams mentality. The fact that you can consistently find ways to take the lead, but then you're not sharp. You're not sharp enough to maintain that. You're not
Agreed.
sharp enough to. At times, maybe it's gonna be ugly. Maybe you have to play in a more defensive shell, force teams to come out of their tactical discipline and expose themselves, so now you can get that next goal and extend your lead. But but to have conceded that many points,
Yes.
and you don't give yourself a chance. You
No,
make the road
no.
ahead of you that much more difficult, and teams know straight away, all right, yeah, we obviously want to score the first goal, but it's DC. If we don't, we know we're still in the game. We know we'll still be in the game. Like that, to me, has to be a mentality shift to where whoever that is, your captain and your just any kind of influential player stepping up in that moment saying, we're not losing, we're scoring the next goal. We're going to see this game out. We figure that out, and we go on from there.
The
I'd
Eastern-
still take DC over Nashville.
All right. The matchup that all three of you have clearly been itching to talk about is Orlando City taking on Nashville SC this weekend as BJ Callahan goes for his first win as manager. They've scored just one goal. However, when I talked to Hani Mukhtar at the All-Star game, he told me that with Callahan, they're looking to play a more exciting brand of soccer, and we've seen glimmers of it. Possessions up 61%, so it is there. However, 14th in the Eastern Conference. What would define success for Nashville SC in 2024?
Oh, define success. Oh, okay. Let's.
Okay,
I'll
so
go
how
this
should
route,
Nashville
man.
SC define success in 2024, Mo Edu, since it doesn't even matter what I ask you because you're going rogue every single time today?
Exactly. I was just gonna say I'll just pivot, but no, I like the question actually because I'll go back to what you said and how you open up this segment, how close the East still is. So technically, success for them, for Nashville, should be finding a way to sneak into the playoffs. And I say sneak in because they've lost 7 straight MLS games. They've scored 1 goal in their last 5 games. They're still searching for that first win under BJ Callahan, who, by the way, I'm excited to see him in this role and see him get players in that are going to be able to play the style that he's trying to play. Because to me, that's still the biggest challenge for this Nashville side is a roster reshuffle, rebuild to now really allow BJ Callahan to bring in pieces that'll complement what he's trying to do. So, Jill, to your question, success for this team, I mean, you're still right there. You're within touching distance of the playoffs. So figure out a way to just get through this season. I mean, you scored the least amount of goals in the league, just 26 goals. Someone else has to be able to help Hani Mukhtar in the attacking end of the pitch. And then the other thing, we were talking about teams in their home form. Nashville used to be a team where whether or not they got the job done on the road, at home they were going to be solid. They were going to be a team that was tough defensively and could score in transition. Hasn't been the case this season. So quite a few things have to change. But I think ultimately, I mean, getting that monkey off your back under BJ Callahan and getting your first win could go a long way to seeing this team sneak into the playoffs.
Yeah, to your point about getting Hani Mukhtar some help, just on a more granular level, the thing I would look for success from Nashville is I want to see a partnership between Mukhtar and Sam Surridge by the end of the year. I want to see these guys playing in a way where they're clearly reading each other, making each other better, making then the entire team, you know, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts sort of thing. That's what the best DP duos do. And look, I think Surridge is a good player. He has not looked like a high-end DP so far. Obviously, Hani has in the past. He has not looked like that over the past year. They got to solve that. I actually think that is more important for them to find success than getting into the playoffs because both Surridge and Hani Mukhtar are under contract at a big number for a long time. They're not going anywhere. For 2025, 2026, 2027, these two guys have to be able to work together at a high level. And if they can't figure that out, then the whole thing has got to be torn down.
It was on this program beginning of the year, and I said the superstar I'm most worried about, Hani Mukhtar. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is you still don't know that answer. And I don't think it's a Hani Mukhtar issue. I think it's a supporting cast issue. Because when you fired Gary Smith, everyone in Nashville was like, finally, we're going to have this. You've got a manager that wants to play, that wants to keep the ball. And what are your results? You haven't won in 3 games, and Hani Mukhtar has 0 goal contributions. I'll tell you, of the 4 teams that we said were atrocious, I'd take New England 99 out of 100 times right now to finish higher because they've got more talent that suits the coach and what he wants to do. And I don't think BJ has the toys to do anything with that this year. They've got to figure out who Hani Mukhtar is in 2025 and whether or not that's Sam Surridge and whoever else is around him. There's big concern in Nashville going into next season.
Taylor, let me just correct you. It wasn't us who said they were atrocious. It was Jill. It was Jill who said it. We all heard it.
Damn straight.
Everybody knows.
I'm sticking with it now. I'm sticking with it. Anything else on your minds before we go? You 3 are kind of out of control today.
How do you spell atrocious?
Out of control.
I'm gonna look that up after the break and
I
come back
thought
to
we
that
were
next
talking
show.
though, didn't you?
Man, I'm still just surprised how early Nashville's out here catching strays.
All right,
no
we're talking
reason.
way
For no
more about
reason.
Nashville SC than I intended to do here today. So we are going to wrap up
26
this
games in, they
match
suck.
day 30 show. For those of you watching, if we didn't discuss your team here on This Is MLS, do not fear. We did a match preview on it, so just head over to your club's page
At
and
Jillian
check
Sakovits.
it out. For Taylor Twellman, Mo Edu, Matt Doyle, and Calen Carr, I'm Jillian Sakovits. We'll see you next week.